I own a number of art and game NFTs. Recent news tell us that the delusional disconnect between what I think I own and what I own in reality. How can the blockchain OS guarantee that my NFT ownership?
That's a very good question. We can frequently see around in the ecosystem this disconnect between what NFTs are and what people seem to believe. So an NFT is basically a pointer to something that exists off-chain. So if you think about a collectible, a file, it's normally a URL pointing to a file that exists on a server or a file that exists on IPFS. If you think about more active NFTs like in-game assets, NFTs that represent in-game assets, things get even worse. Because now what the NFT is just a pointer, a hash, that in the context of the game has a translation to an actual item in the virtual space of the game, but there is nothing outside the game itself that has the contents of the asset itself. So let's say you have an NFT that represents a magic sword inside of your game. Well, what is the value of your magic sword? As long as the game exists and they behave in a predictable way, the developers of the game company, then you can rest assured that your sword may preserve the value that you believe it has. But what happens if the game company goes out of business? What happens if they decide to mint to create hundreds or thousands of replicas of your special scarce sword? Then the value of your NFT is gone. So, to the extent that people don't really, games don't really tap into decentralization in a more profound way, the minting and the control of the economy behind these assets is totally centralized. So the game company, in the example that I gave, has a monopoly over the minting and the economy and the real value of this NFT. So I believe that the way forward for us to have NFTs that really have value, especially in games, is for developers to create games that have their logic and their economy is really decentralized. And that's where the OS comes into play. Because we are able to decentralize a real server running Linux for the first time, then developers can actually use their preferred languages like C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, and the libraries they would use in their regular development lives to build this decentralized logic. So I'm very excited about the future of games, especially when they get more decentralized.